All right, good deal. Thanks for being here. Good afternoon. I want to say this. I probably didn't say this on Saturday night, but everybody that went to Norman, appreciate you all going. Appreciate your bosses letting you go on the trip to cover us. Great college football game on Saturday night. Really proud of how our team competed. Thought we played tough and physical. Just made too many mistakes at critical times to win the game. Quick recap of it. Special teams, really not a lot of work. I thought that their specialists are really good. I think that showed in the game. Their punter and their kicker are really, really talented. The penalty on our first kickoff was detrimental. Give them a really short field on their first touchdown drive when we had the momentum there. I thought our field goal protection was really good, and I thought Sumter punted the ball. That's the best he's punted maybe in an entire game since he's been here over the course of 2 years. Offensively, I thought we controlled the game for really 2.5 quarters as far as having the ball. Had a good plan. I thought we battled up front, really. I mean, their D-line is really, really talented. And I thought our guys battled up front. Both the quarterbacks did some good things. We won versus man coverage. I've got to do a better job of getting us in some successful shot plays. We called them. We just didn't have them open, and that's on me at the end of the day. We had 3 possessions in the second half, and if you go back and really look at it, I mean, that's all we had. We had 3 possessions. The first one we drive down, get a procedure penalty on the 1, 2nd and 1. Felt like I think that was we had a chance to really make a statement there. We didn't get it. We didn't get it in. Had some good plays. We just didn't get it in there. The second one is when we got the 4th down stop, and we missed a throw on 3rd down. And then the third one, we're in really good position. The third possession. And we drive down. I think it's on the 27-yard line there with 5:50 to go. And so, but we did some good things. We were outmanned at some spots, but I thought we competed. But we got to figure out ways to get more explosive plays. We were able to hold on to the ball quite a bit, but we got to be able to score touchdowns to win those games. When you want to minimize possessions. If you look at Oklahoma, they haven't lost very many shootouts. The only shootouts they've lost is when they turn the ball over a bunch, and they weren't turning the ball over, and that's a credit to Lincoln and how he was calling the game. So you want to minimize possessions, but when you do that, and you're not going to get very many shots, when you get in the red zone, you got to score touchdowns, and then you can't make mistakes that hurt you. And at the end of the day, that's what we did. And then schematically, I've got to do a better job of getting us in some shot plays that can create some explosive. Defensively, we played very, very well for 3 quarters. Thought we ran the ball, we tackled well, we were physical. We were great on first down. I think that's a stat that's probably gotten lost. We were really, really good on first down. We prevented all but 1 deep ball. Thought we got tired late. Their last 2 drives went 16 plays and 14 plays. And I thought we wore down a little bit there at the end. We need some from a coaching perspective, we got to rotate our D-line maybe a little bit more, and then we've got to continue to recruit and build the depth. We got tired at linebacker and at on the D-line there late in the 4th. But we're an improving football team. It's we got to take the next step and win those games. That's Oklahoma's a good football team. They're talented, but we were good enough on that night to win, and we got to be able to get over the hump and do that. Moving on to Texas Tech, they've had our numbers last 2 years. You'll know that. Everybody's been covering us for a while. It's in here. We haven't played very well. They beat us, but we have not played very well. When you look at it, special teams-wise, they got a great punter. He was a huge factor in the game last year. McNamara is his name. They got one of the best special teams coaches, very well respected throughout college football. And Tom Erdahl, they're always really good wherever he's been, special teams-wise. Offensively, different coordinator, but very similar to the style they've been using. They'll go tempo. The quarterback that started against us and really hurt us last year extending plays. He'll start again this week, and the running backs have done a nice job. The Thompson kid, I think he's really good. He's been banged up a little bit, but I think he's really good. He's hurt us 2 years in a row. Their offensive line, I think, is underrated. They were underrated last year. If you go back and look at those statistics that they've had, they've done a good job. And then number 13, the receiver, is a big-time player. You know, he's a great player. You know, I'd put him up there with those guys at Maryland, maybe better. I don't know, but he's really good, and they do a good job getting him the ball. You know, they target him a bunch. Defensively, they played well through 3 games. You know, when you look at Texas, the game, you know, obviously the number's high. I think it's a little bit of an anomaly, in my opinion. Bijan Robinson was special in that game. If you go back and watch it, I mean, he was special. They're really strong up front. They drop 8 a bunch. They're a 3-man front. Play 3 safeties a lot. They got eyes on the quarterback and eyes in the backfield almost on every snap. Get to man on 3rd down. But really, they play well through 3 weeks, and then last week just didn't play as well. Finishing up here, we're glad to be home. You know, striping the stadium. You know, I think it's important to note that Darryl Talley's getting his number retired. Enjoyed getting to know him over the last 2 years. As good a defensive player that's ever played here, and special. You know, I think it's fitting too. A guy that's playing at an extremely high level be the last one to wear 90 here too, and Akeem Messidor. You know, Darryl Talley, we're number 90. We're going to retire that number. Akeem's wearing it now. He'll continue to wear it as he finishes up his career. But I think Darryl will be pretty proud of how Akeem's played in that number so far this year. So with that, I'll take questions.
You talked Saturday night about critical mistakes. You just talked about it again here. So you were going to go back and look at if Oklahoma had any cause in that, and then on top of it, how do you correct what you're doing wrong?
Yeah, you know, it's here's what it comes down to, Greg, is we got the ball and it's on the 27-yard line, and we get a false start. It's 2nd and 6 or 7, and then we have a bad snap. And here's the thing, like Zach Frazier played his ass off. I don't know, I may not be able to say that on live radio, but I mean he did. He played well. And here's what I tell our guys is Zach Frazier is, if not our hardest worker, he probably is, but he's in the conversation, not hurt anybody else's feelings. All right, he's the most prepared. He's one of our best practice players. He does everything that gives you an opportunity to perform well on Saturday night. And if you look at it, I think we had 63 countable snaps. Probably 59 of those were pretty good. And he's playing against 2 guys, you know, number 8, who'll be a high draft pick, and he's playing against some really, really good players in there. And I thought he did a great job. And he's had 2 bad plays. You know what I mean? And there's not a whole lot of correcting to it. You know, it's just, hey, it was a bad play. He only had 1 other bad snap the whole game. He thought the quarterback asked for the ball, and he didn't. And that's kind of what it is. But I'll say this is Zach Frazier over the course of the next 3.5 years, I'll take him every single time in that situation, in that kind of moment, and he'll learn from it and move on.
I think early in it said that you were curious about their timing on the ball, onside, offside. Do you see anything there? Were they doing anything to game it?
Yeah, and here's the deal: is in my opinion they were offsides, in Greg Burke's opinion they weren't, and so I don't feel like paying a fine, so I'll just go with that. But got some video evidence.
Advantage with Columby having played you guys last year, or advantage for you guys since you saw him in their previous starter you hadn't seen? What were the pluses and minuses?
Well, I mean, I think it helps that we played him last year. I don't know if it'll help us when he starts scrambling around. That's where we needed help last year. He's done a good job. You know, I think that they obviously feel really comfortable with him. He threw, I want to say 3 go balls there in the second half against Texas, and they were right on the money, and he had 3 explosive plays. And he's athletic. He can extend plays. That's what really hurt us last year, you know, especially they converted 2 third downs late in that game to hold on to the ball, where he was really effective, kind of stretching it out on us.
No, on Zach Frazier, the bad snaps, I think there was a different quarterback in on each one of them, if I remember correctly. Is there any communication situation there that?
The first one, he I don't know, I think he was falling backwards or whatever. The second one, that was when Garrett was in. The second one was with Daggy, and like I said, he thought he heard a snap. You know, did Oklahoma say something? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Last 2 games, turnovers, the Texas Tech games, turnovers were a big part of it. Is it because they caused them, or was it just
Nah, we weren't very good in 2019, John. I mean, they both years really moved the ball well. We only had one turnover last year, but it was critical because it got boomerang for a touchdown. Um, I think if you're looking at two key points of why they've won and why we have not won, um, I think there's three of them. The two of them that stick out are rushing yardage and turnovers, and the third one would be in the red zone. Just looking over a 2-year window.
Where's your defense in comparison to last year? I mean, obviously statistically great last year, but probably playing a lot better offenses this year. I don't know if that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think that's fair. Maryland last year, and we played well on defense, but we got some fortunate breaks too. As far as when we caught some people with backup quarterbacks and things like that. This year, I mean, we've played Maryland, who I think is talented. We've talked about it. They've proven. I think they're still undefeated, but the quarterback's playing well. They got two quality receivers. Running back really hurt us. I think he's had a good year. And then Virginia Tech's a challenge because of the quarterback being able to run. And then Oklahoma's Oklahoma. I mean they're talented. They and they did a nice job. I thought they did a good job of seeing what kind of game it was and kind of going back and just being patient there in the second half. But we're different. We're different on defense than we were a year ago. I think that as a group we have a chance to be as good or better. I think that the schedule is more challenging for us, just as who we've got to play. But I think I like how our guys are playing. I didn't like how they played week 1. I didn't like how they played at points during week 2, but week 3 and 4, man, we played at a really high level. And a really high level. And so we've got to continue to maintain that. And then, I thought we had some opportunities to make some plays on some balls that we didn't. And if we can do that, then we got a chance to be special.
After the game, you mentioned that the defense was very good since the Tech game in 2019.
Yeah, I think if you go back, Mike, and look at statistically, now there's a couple games where we didn't play as well. I think the Tech game a year ago, and then the Maryland game, and then the Iowa State game. Obviously, that's the one we really played poorly. But the other two we didn't play as good. But I think we've established a standard here of how we play defense. And I think it came right after this. We went on the road in 19 here. We laid a big egg, and played poorly and didn't represent ourselves in the right way. And then came back and really from that point forward, going to Kansas State, then Oklahoma State here at home, and then going on the road and beating TCU, and then all of last year minus the ones we just talked about. And up to this point, I think we've established a standard of how we want to play. And I think that's important. And I told our team this the other day, and I think it holds true, and I don't mind sharing it publicly, is, I think there's a formula for us to be able to win big here, and I think that's built around playing great defense, and I think that fits us. We've got to get more explosive on offense. We've got to continue to make strides on defense, and we got to get deeper on defense. Okay, but I think we're developing a standard that we're going to play defense at a high level. I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
It was kind of similar to that. I was wondering, was that just a starting line for that stretch good play, or was there something out of that performance that you all sat down and maybe thought of that philosophy you're talking about right there? Was there anything about that game or just coincidence at the time?
The philosophy was really, that's we've kind of formed that during the first spring we were here, just kind of looking historically at our league, where we're going to recruit, what type of kids we can get, and then how do you build? How do you build? Knowing it was going to be a little bit of a longer term deal, like how do you build where we can be competitive? Because there've been people that tried to outscore everybody. Not here. I'm just talking about in our league in general. And I think that's a tough formula when you're playing Oklahoma's of the world. And so we felt like if we can establish great defense and play great special teams and be really efficient on offense, and then we got to recruit some difference makers, which I think we do. We have a couple. We just got to continue to grow them and mature them and get them in situations where they can really be explosive. Then that's the formula. And I think just after that performance is, hey, like not acceptable. And then schematically, we got a really good feel for who we are. Um, and like I said, from that was kind of the point where we've played pretty good defense since.
These guys lead the country in explosive plays. I think at 950 or more yards or more. Is it scheme?
does.
Texas Tech does. Is it scheme what you're seeing on tape, or is it just good players?
But the receiver's special. Yeah, the receiver's special. 13 is a big time player. I think the running back's one of the better running backs in our league. The Thompson kid. They've extended some plays, especially against Houston there. Show, I think it's how you say it. He got out of the pocket and extended some plays. And then Columbia threw a couple they hit 350 more go balls against Texas there in the second half. Caught Texas in man. So they're making plays. I think anytime you hit a play like that, you're making some plays.
Neal, along that line on defensive discussion, it seems like in college football right now, the guys that came into the season favored for the Heisman Trophy and that are not taking a hold of it. Is it possible for a defensive guy to maybe sneak in there somehow?
I don't know.
I mean,
That's hard.
they never do. But
Yeah, no, I just think it's hard. I mean, for the defensive, and it's unfortunate, really, to be honest with you, because it's really become the running back, quarterback, best player award. That's really what it's become. Your occasional receiver, like last year with Devontae Smith, but it's really become an offensive skill award, which it's not fair, but that is what it has become.
Defensive line, the need for that for immediate purposes. Have you made a decision on him and Russell, and how else do you generate depth this year?
Yeah, we've got a couple games where we can make a decision on Hammond. He's one that's in the discussion. We need to push Jalen Thornton into the mix. Sean Martins came along, giving us positive snaps. Taj Austin played his best game. Akeem and Dante both played. Dante played his best game. He did. He played his best game within the scheme that he's played maybe since we've been here. I was really impressed with how he played. Akeem Messidor's playing at a really, really high level. And then if you look at it, Middleton played a few snaps the other night. He's got to play lower. But between Middleton, Jalen Thornton, those are the guys that are going to have to, Hammond Russell. Jordan Jefferson did a nice job, played about 20 snaps. But between Hammond Russell, Jalen Thornton, Daryl Middleton, we're gonna have to get some more snaps out of those guys.
This is kind of a two-parter. Touchdowns first drive every game. Second quarter scoring splits, pretty impressive. That's kind of continuous too for a while. Second half has been different. How do those two things exist? Because it seems like it's so sharp early, and then the other 30 minutes.
Well, if you look at it, so we've had really good drives the first drive of the second half every time. We just had to kick field goals. So if you take, I think last week, I think it's fair Maryland and it's fair Virginia Tech wise. Virginia Tech game, we kind of took the air out of it. And it's fair. You can argue that, hey, maybe did it too early, but we kind of, it was 27-7. We thought we were one score from making that where we could put it away. So we took the air out of it. But Maryland and Virginia Tech's fair. Last week, not as much, just because there's only 3 possessions. That's where it's kind of gotten lost on last week. They had 4 possessions in the second half, and we had 3. And 2 of those drives were really productive. We should have scored a touchdown. We had to settle for a field goal. And then we were in a position where we could have scored either a field goal or a touchdown and probably ran the clock under 2.5 minutes there, even if Lincoln used his timeouts. So, but I think it's fair, the Maryland game and Virginia Tech, probably not as much last week.
Not to be negative, but the positive start, you script things well in the second quarter so they can get into a groove. What works there?
Well, you start at the start of the game. It's repetitions. Repetitions. We script the second half too, and that's why we've had productive drives in the second half starting too. But we've come. It's really been it's been early in the fourth quarters where we've kind of dried up, and late in the third, early in the fourth. And I think it's a combination. You always look for, okay, from a play caller, offense scheme wise, I think you got to do a couple things. You got to save some things, right? I think you got to do that. Maybe carry a little bit more into a game and save some for the second half. I think that's a piece of it. I think that there's some other things you can do as far as adjusting on some plays. We tried that against Oklahoma to some success. We ran a lot of the same plays because they were giving us the same plays, but we adjusted and gave them different looks on it. So I think that's something we can continue to do, but we have to get better. I mean, that's the truth of it. I mean, we got to score more in the second half.
On the search for explosive plays, do you feel like you're close? And is it an adjustment in schematics that you mentioned a little bit earlier about doing a better job of getting in maybe a different look or something? Or,
Well, I
is
think
that a small?
Yeah, going into it's such a week-to-week deal, Kevin, because, like, going into the game, I think we were first or second in the league in explosive plays, going into the Oklahoma contest. And explosive plays, they're tough because you got time and place is really important, all right, especially when you're playing against a group that you can't play from behind the chains. And so I think we were 3 of 8 on 10-plus down the field throws, all right, and you're a little bit limited because you're not going to you got to be careful protection wise in some one-on-ones versus that group that Oklahoma has. So we're 3 of 8 with a drop, 50%. That's not bad, but we've got to get the ball in the air 20-plus yards on those explosive plays, and that's where schematically we got to do a little better job. Against that type of people. We've done a good job against everybody else, but against that type of pass rush, we've got to do some different things protection-wise, giving us a chance to hold on the ball a little bit longer so we can get the ball down the field.
Coach, through 4 games, are you happy with the total touches that Letty Brown is averaging per game, or are you wanting to maybe beef that up a little bit more?
Well, we got to get a number 2 guy at that position. I think that he's getting enough touches, but I think he's having to play too many snaps, so I don't think he's as fresh late as he needs to be. I think early, and I think in the first half, we've done a pretty good job of keeping free hitters off of him, and he's done a good job of really not necessarily making people miss, but getting positive yards after contact, which he's really good at. I think we've got to do a better job of getting the ball in the pass game. We're having to use him in protection more. Which he's done a great job of. Credit to him. He's done a great job, but we've had to use him in protection. Whether it's chipping defensive ends or helping in a slide protection. We've had to use him more, so we hadn't been able to get him free released as much as we'd like to. But the touches is fine. We've got to get him more. We got to get him, and it's on us as much him. We've got to be more productive in the second half with him.
So now that you've watched film on it, how do you feel you use both your quarterbacks in the rhythm tonight? You feel like you're getting close to where you
Yeah, I think it's going to be a game-to-game deal where you're going to feel it out. I thought that both of them did some really good things. I think if you go back and really look at it, and everybody wants to pay uber attention to the quarterback position. And I do understand it. But I thought Jared did some good things. He missed a third down throw on the second possession of the second half that he'd like to have back. He'd probably like to have the touchdown. The ball wasn't bad, but he'd like to have it probably down a little bit. There's a fine line there because you don't want to throw it low where the linebackers can get a touch on it either. And I thought Garrett did some good things. He had some good energy, missed a couple reads, but what we asked him to do, I thought he executed. I thought he made some good decisions on when to run it, when to pull it, when to give it, when to throw the ball, when not to throw it. And he just got to learn, man. He's got to get down some. He took some shots. I'm sure he was sore on Sunday morning.